Hey everyone, it's Juan Huizar with another Own More Doors podcast. Today, yes, I talk about owning more doors, but today I'm going to show you guys how to save money by owning those doors. We're going to tackle the subject of plumbing and how that is one of the biggest expenses when you're an apartment owner, when you have rental properties, and what you could do before something gets out of control, before the leaks, before the calls, before, hey, the sewage is backed up into my tub, before hey, there's water coming down from the unit above. That's a problem. You know it is. And if you haven't experienced, you will soon if you own units. And so we're going to interview Jordan Barile with Primo Plumbing. So make sure to tune in. What's up, everyone? It's another Own More Doors podcast. I'm Juan Huizar. Thank you guys for tuning in. And I have a good friend of mine, Jordan Barile with Primo Plumbing. Jordan, man, I thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Jordan, so I originally met your dad through a business organization group called Tippers. And so I had years of knowing your dad. Your dad was great, had a great reputation. People loved working with Primo Plumbing. And then just out of the blue, Dad here's the way that I saw it. Dad was out of the picture. Jordan's in the picture.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who the hell's this guy? Yeah, right. And then, and then I get to meet Jordan. Jordan's funny and hilarious, and he's well spoken. I'm like, man, this is, and he's not shy. So, Jordan, so let's hop right into it. Our channel is dedicated to, we talk about owning more doors, but today's podcast is like, okay, well, we're going to own doors, but we have to make sure that we're taking care of the doors that we own.
Right.
And I know, and you know, that the majority of calls that an apartment owner gets are plumbing related.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so why don't you take us from like, okay, if you're an apartment owner, these are things that you could do to prevent major issues, or these are the things that you should be checking, and just kind of tell us how frequently they should be looking at those things. Because at the end of the day, yes, we want to own more doors, but you want to protect the income. You want to keep as much profit in your pocket as possible.
Yeah.
You want to provide good service. You don't want to be a bad housing provider. But you have to know some things, specifically to maintenance. So whether you know it or your property manager knows it, that's what today's show is going to be about.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you take it from the top. You tell us like, hey, these are the things that I see, and this is what owners could do.
Just protect their investment, right? I mean, At the end of the day, it's, as we know, in SoCal, everything's so expensive. The homes are, the properties are. I know what's behind the doors, under the doors, above the doors. I mean, we're in and out of people's homes and properties every day, multiple times a day. It's actually kind of scary sometimes how bad of a condition a property could be in. And in fact, just yesterday, I was on a job, went out to assist one of my technicians on the job, and the property owner showed up too. And he's on the phone with his wife, and he says, the house looks like shit. He's not even inside yet. Yeah. And he's just, he's talking to his wife, and he's like, the house, the paint's peeling, this and that. And I'm like, your drains are not in great shape. And, we were there to clear, one of the issues was to clear a mainline stoppage. And then the original issue we came out for was the laundry drain had broken off. And I mean, it's just so old, so rotten that it just, the weight of its own pipe just made it break. And so while we're there testing everything, all of a sudden they're saying, hey, our whole house is backed up. And, just coincidental timing. I mean, thankfully we were still there when they discovered it. But, we're trying to talk to him about, how to, get this issue resolved and things like that. And he can't take his mind off of all these things that he hasn't seen, because he probably hasn't been there in over a year or so.
Jordan, one of the things that I tell people when you own an apartment building, or like in this case, it sounds like it might be just an investment house, sure, right? Yeah. Okay. Or an investment condo. I tell people the best part, you do own a business. That is its own independent business. Yeah. There's income, there's expenses, there's a net operating income, there's value in that asset. And I tell people, and the best part, you don't have to go to it every day.
Right. Right.
But on the flip side,
Right.
you
Yeah.
don't go to it for a couple years,
Right.
and then
That could be a problem.
it could be a problem.
Mhm.
And that, that to me, because we represent a lot of owners, and that realization that, oh my gosh, my property looks like crap.
Yeah.
Yes, right? Because if you own an apartment building or a rental property, and the tenant's a good tenant, they're paying rent,
Right.
every now and then you get a maintenance call.
Yeah.
You're not worried about the property,
Right.
but things are going to happen.
Right. Right.
What are the major things that you see from a plumbing perspective when it comes to rental property?
Sure. Yeah. So a lot of like stoppages, right? I mean, those are urgent. You can't put them off. You can't not call your landlord or property management company and your only toilet doesn't work. Like, you're going to call them. So we get a lot of calls about my toilet's running or it's not draining. We get a lot of like sink and shower stoppages. Those are always very common because again, it's the world of plumbing. You can't put it off for too long. Whether you want to or not, or times are tough or not, you need to be able to flush a toilet. You need hot water. You need to be able to take a shower. So when you go to work, you don't smell awful. So, those are things where if it's affecting the tenant, you're going to know right away. If you don't know right away, then it's a much bigger issue. I've gone to calls where the tenant's like, I don't want to call my landlord. I don't want my rent to go up. I don't have a working shower. I'll shower at the gym, and it's I mean, they'll make it do. But the biggest thing, like my parents own a couple properties, and the biggest two really big things that I see that they do with their tenants when they're first getting started with a new tenant, before the tenant moves in, they do a very thorough walkthrough. Obviously, like you mentioned, my dad started the plumbing company. He's very plumbing's on the forefront of his mind, but he's looking at how's the paint, how's the the condition of everything, including of course the plumbing. So get a very good understanding of the condition of your property before someone even moves in, or if you're just buying it, really understand like what's the the heating and cooling status, what's the plumbing status, what's the foundation status. Some of the floors sinking or getting dilapidated. So understanding your property really well is huge. And then the second thing is make it very clear to the tenant, like if you have any issue, like call us. You're not bothering us, you're not inconveniencing us. Like, we want to take care of the property so you're comfortable in this place. And I think that's really important because a lot of people, like, even then they're like, I don't want to bother you. And you just have to keep reiterating, you're not bothering me. We're taking care of the property you're paying for, and so that has to go both ways. You have to want to take care of the tenant through the property, and the tenant has to want to, feel appreciated and help you take care of that property. So if that doesn't mesh, it's a problem.
Sometimes on buildings that I'm selling, I get to go in all the units because I got to see the condition so that I could market it properly. I'll go into units and I clearly hear water flowing, from just
toilet running,
just running like crazy. And I'm like, is this professionally managed, or is it self-managed by the owner? But there's a water bill out there that's huge, and it's just wasting water.
I think that is like the silent killer, is toilets just like run, even if it's not constant. It could be like every 30 minutes you hear it kick on for like 2-3 seconds and then turn back off. And then half an hour, 45 minutes later, it kicks on again. That happening every half hour to every hour of every single day has raised some of our customers' bills by $1,000 a month. So you're normally getting, I don't know, what's the average water bill for, say, a single family home? Like $400, something like that. Now they're getting a bill for $1,500, and you can't go back to the water company and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize. So we had a plumber come out. Could you refund?" They're like, "No, you use that water.
Yeah,
but you're not using it. You're just wasting." It's literally, I picture when I see faucets dripping, hose bibs dripping, toilets running, it's change and dollar bills just throwing it down the drain. I mean, it's literally what's happening.
And it's interesting that some tenants block the noise out.
Oh yeah,
They block it out.
It's white noise. Yeah.
It's just
Helps them sleep at night.
It's just, and I'm like, it's your duty. But like, if they weren't told,
Right.
like if they weren't told, like, hey, if you hear this, please let me know.
Right.
But you have to tell them, because it could happen. It happens in my own toilets at the house.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so it's happening here. It's going to be happening everywhere else. And
Right.
I think a lot of times when you're an owner, unfortunately, it's out of sight, out of mind. You want the rent to come in.
Right.
Of course, if you get called upon for something, you're going to fix it.
Right.
Most
Right.
people will. But no one's being proactive. Like
Right.
what are things that people could do that are proactive, either when there's a turnover, so
Sure.
there's a vacancy, or maybe it's something that they do, I don't know. I mean, should they be checking water valves and stuff once a year?
100%. Yeah.
Sometimes like I'll get calls on my units and, hey, there's water coming underneath the toilet base,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's kind of the wax rings, what I've learned.
Sure.
I know some basics.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know how to fix them, but I know some basics.
You know how to avoid it in the future, and
Yeah.
things to look out for. That's a big one, because if you're referring to the wax ring, if you've got water pooling up from under your toilet, people think, okay, well, the floor's tile, it's water resistant or waterproof, whatever. But the tile only goes so far under the toilet. Then there's the flange, and there's usually a gap between the flange and the tile or wood floor or whatever it is. And then, so the water that's pulling up underneath, some of it's spilling out, but some of it's going down into the floor and the subfloor. And now that could, I mean, I've walked to, inspect people's toilets, and as I step alongside the toilet to then remove it, my boots kind of like sinking into the floor. I mean, it's like pushing the floor down. That means so much water has, little by little accumulated under that toilet and soaked into the wood. Wood acts like a sponge. It just brings it in, that now it's deteriorated the wood, and now you're full. So now not only do you need a new wax ring and to reset the toilet and all, now you have to have a flooring guy come in and chop out the bad wood and the rotted wood and redo it. So to answer your question, things to look out for, just a visual inspection. No one ever looks under their bathroom sink, their kitchen sink, their angle stops. If you don't have a quarter turn shutoff valve, the quarter turn angle stops under each fixture, you need that. All the time I see those multi-turn. It's kind of like an oval handle, and you have to like twist it a bunch of times to actually turn off the water. Those fail constantly. And so people are like, oh, but it works. Right now, it works. But it's an old, outdated, obsolete, product, and for a reason, because they've got something better that works, that doesn't fail, that the washer doesn't wear out. They eliminated the washers. It's more like a ball valve instead of a gate valve. The gate valve to shut off to your house. If you see those in front of your home, get rid of them, because one day you may have an emergency because you didn't call us out, you ignored our advice and Juan's advice and said, I don't need to call a plumber. I check myself. But then you have a line burst or an angle stop start like really leaking bad, and you're like, oh, I'll go turn off the water to the house or the whole building, and now you're inconveniencing 7 people or more, depending on how many units and how many people in each unit, and you go to turn off the gate valve and it won't turn off. And this is the 2nd or 3rd floor. And so now the water that's leaking is going through their floor into the bottom unit's ceiling, affecting so the thing that I can't stress enough is paying a little bit here and there to maintain the property avoids thousands of dollars in damage and water damage that doesn't even fix the issue. Okay, you just paid $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 if you're lucky to, fix a floor, fix a ceiling in the bottom unit, and I still got to call that plumber to, come out and fix this angle stop, So, people say, oh gosh, a few $100s to change a couple angle stops, or a few $1,000s on top of replacing the angle stops. I mean, because it's only a matter of time, as we know in Long Beach. It's a really old city. There's still galvanized plumbing systems that people are just, either unaware of, not thinking about, or, they cross their fingers and toes every night and hope for the best. So, the biggest thing is just visually inspect your properties, whether the owner wants to do it or they want to pay for us to go out and just do an inspection fee. And just, we will check every single angle stop, every connection, every shutoff valve, what's the condition of the faucets, the tub, and little things that you wouldn't think of, like, when you run the shower, is water spraying onto the rim of the tub and then seeping into the wall. That's not technically a plumbing issue necessarily, but we're going to point that out to you and say, hey, you may want to have someone come and recaulk the tub or the shower, or, there's some gaps between those tiles, a handyman could fix that, but you're avoiding, a bathroom remodel.
So what I see specifically to that is, I'll walk into bathrooms and, just like you said, the floor is weak.
Yeah.
And so now I know that the support underneath has taken so much water damage through the years, that it's a complete bathroom remodel. Because how can you get down to the plywood that's shot, and then underneath the plywood it's got the support beams. All that has to be replaced. So now the toilet gets removed, the tile gets removed, the plywood's removed, and now
the pedestal sink.
Everything. And then you probably have to remove the heavy tub.
Oh yeah.
And so it turns into this really, really huge job. The one part that scares me, and especially just because I bought this new building, and I'm always afraid of the upstairs units, because I know that the toilet wax ring is going to leak at some point, and it goes downstairs, and now you're disrupting someone underneath, and hopefully that water doesn't go on top of their mattress, because now you're buying a new mattress, and then you got water that comes out of the shower. So all these things you have to be watching for. And then there's just regular leaks. And sometimes there's water or sewer line leaks within a wall that you had no idea was even there, but just happens to be the case. But in terms of like water coming out of the shower when someone's showering, we see walls where sometimes they look black. I don't want to use the word mold. I'm not a mold expert, but something.
Biogrowth.
You touch it and it's weak, and it's like, it's water's been coming out, or it's on top of the window seal. And then, or sometimes you press the tile and the tile kind of gives in.
It should not be.
You see it all the time. Granted, you get hired to fix it. I just see it, and then I have to make a note of it. Like, okay, it's, and I
something
see it
to add onto your list.
I see it all the time, and so you bring up a good point. Do people actually hire you for an inspection? Because you said, hey, like there's prudent owners out there that say, hey, someone just moved out. Can you just come in? We got it painted and everything. Can you just let me know that everything's okay with the plumbing? Right
after this episode, I'm going to do a sewer inspection, and I actually got referred to. It's a realtor. He contacted someone who was like, that's out of my area. So he referred that guy to a friend of mine who said, I'm sorry, it's a little out of our range and we're swamped. I can't get to it. Call Jordan with Primo Plumbing. So he called me, said, hey, I'm helping these people buy their first home. We had an inspection done. They found some things, but an inspector, just a general inspector,
like a general home inspector, during an escrow period. Yes.
They're looking at electrical, plumbing, HVAC, structural, framing, so many different things. One of the things in the report was the staircase to the second floor. There was a picture of his fist going through the railings, and he said these rails are too wide by today's standard, and I thought, wow, they really have to check everything. So they're not the specialist, right? They're a general home inspector.
And did you know that you don't have to be licensed to do what they're doing?
Oh, really?
There's no license behind it.
I don't know if I know that. No,
there's no license behind it. Right. So I always tease that, when we have these inspectors come out, everything is the roof. Have a roof inspector come out.
Right.
Plumbing. Have a professional plumbing company. Electric. So I'm like, I warn our buyers, hey, you're going to get this report, and there's going to be suggestions.
Right.
I'm like,
And the report did say things like, have a professional come out and check this. And this guy was actually thorough. I mean, he cameraed the sewer and noticed a crack in the drain, and it was ABS. So that means something's pushing up against the ABS so hard that it's cracked it in. You know, ABS plastic, I mean, it's thick, it's strong. It's nice that it doesn't rust or corrode like cast iron or clay does. You know, you don't get the root intrusions that clay does. But yet, you know, some people would think, oh, you've got ABS, you're good. But then you inspect it and it could be better. And so now my job is to go out and specifically inspect the plumbing thoroughly. And what I'm going to do when I camera the sewer is find those spots and then locate them and see, is it under a yard? Is it under a driveway? Where is it? So because it needs to be repaired. And if they're buying a home, I mean, like we said, you're putting a lot of money down. There's probably things you want to change and cosmetic stuff, but cosmetic stuff can wait. Plumbing, not so much, you know. So, you know, that is the nice thing about our industry. And of course, why wouldn't I promote, you know, take care of your property and fix it? But at the same time, all you're doing is protecting your investment and saving money, because if you keep putting off, and 5 years down the road, oh shoot, we can't put it off anymore. Well, the price you would have paid 5 years ago is a heck of a lot cheaper than it is in 5 more years, right?
Does your inspection include you going underneath the
crawl space?
The crawl space, because
and the attic too. If
you know, because there could be
slabs,
lines,
or even if there is a crawl space, sometimes there are, you know, plumbing fixture or plumbing in the attic.
Because for those people who have a property and there's a leak underneath the house, they don't know there's a leak
until there's like a bad smell
or sewer, because we've been, you know, during inspections, and then that's when we discover like there's like the sewer has
you've got a pond.
It's a
of
pond,
sewage,
and it's disgusting. And it's you know,
and the old school guys like my dad, he'd say, "Oh, let me put on a wetsuit," you know. But you know, times have changed, and we want to protect our health and stay healthy, because this is such a physically demanding career that, you know, if we see a pond of sewage, we're calling a restoration company. You want us to fix a leak? First, we need to be able to protect ourselves in getting to it, you know, because you know, some people say, it's just a little bit of sewage. Even if that's the case, and we don't have any open cuts or something that's gonna, you know, get infected and give us some weird disease, what if there's an electrical line that's draped down and you know, touching the water? I got shocked pretty bad once on a job. Thankfully, you know, I was good, but I had to go to the hospital, get checked up, make sure I was good. I had an entry-exit wound of electricity arcing through my hand from touching my cable, and it was charged somehow. And when the supply house I always go to heard about it, they said, "Oh man, did you hear about so-and-so's son?" I was like, "No, what happened?" They said his son just died under a house. And it was because, and the worst part was, he'd already repiped the whole house. He went up to tell the customer, "Hey, ma'am, you know, everything's all set. You're all good." And they said, "Oh, did you get a picture of everything?" He said, "Oh, you know, I'm sorry, I forgot. Let me go back under and get a picture of that." Never came back out, because there was you know, after chopping everything out and puddles of water everywhere, there was a conduit or something that was draped down, hanging in the soil, and there was, you know, bare wire or something, and when he crawled and touched that water, it killed him instantly. So that's a kid who had a really bright future and a amazing job to you know, set him up for the rest of his life, and it, you know, it's just one of those things. So that's why it's so important to hire a professional who knows what they're doing, who knows the risks, who knows what to look out for, so that he doesn't put himself or the homeowner or the tenants in harm's way.
Right. Jordan, with the inspection fee, because I'm gonna highly recommend that people do that, and I get it. People are gonna be like, I don't want to pay someone to go check that, but like, don't you want to find out if there's a leak? Because it's the water it's water that's going to cause a lot of damage.
Yeah, definitely.
You're checking all the water valves underneath
every shut off, every supply line. You know, we'll see like little like rust spots on the supply line, and they don't just get rusty, right? That means like there's probably some like micro tear in the hose that rusted itself shut. So that means eventually it's going to re-rust out, and now you've got a pinhole leak. And of course, those always happen the middle of the night, right? Or while you're away at work. No one's sitting by their bathroom waiting for something to happen. So by the time you see it, it is too late. There's floor damage, wall damage, drywall damage, tile damage, cabinetry that's ruined, your vanity sink. And the nicer your property is, the more expensive it is to fix it and get it back to how it was. So yeah, I mean, I can't stress getting inspection done enough. I mean, just a simple, basic, full home inspection for single family or a single unit, we charge $170. Some people think, oh, $170, that's not too bad. Some people think, God, $170. But if it saves you thousands, which it usually does, knowing is half the battle. If you don't know what needs to be done, or at least what's coming up, right? If you're calling us, you're being proactive. Number one, there's not necessarily an issue right now, but you've got that crystal ball that can show you what's coming up, and it's all written in our report. And we keep it simple. We just say, the angle stops in the master bathroom look pretty good, but the ones in the guest bathroom, in the hallway bathroom, need to be changed. We just keep it simple.
Right.
We'll take photos, we'll attach them, we can send them to you. You can see exactly what is going on, and then it's in your court. Ball's in your court. If you want to do something about it, great. Let's get it going. Here's the price. If you don't, okay. We're not forcing anyone to do anything. We're just giving them the options to how do you want to protect your investment, right?
Jordan, talk to us about water heaters. Because we're selling a lot of buildings, the inspector will point out that, hey, this one's 20 years old, 25 years old. It's beyond its useful life,
Right.
and there's all these warnings. The cost of buying, installing the water heaters has gone up. Like, how can someone? What kind of advice can you give us when it comes to water heaters?
Yeah. The biggest thing is some people will call me, hey, my tank water heater is leaking all over the place. I'm thinking about going to tankless, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, okay, well, there's a lot more research that needs to go into providing you an estimate for a tankless than just, all right, let's swap it out with the tankless. Where's your gas meter in regards to the location of the water heater, where the water heater is going to be, and the gas meter? Because do you need a dedicated 3/4 inch gas line to the tankless, or can you just branch off or reuse the 1/2 inch line that's already run to the tank? But there's a lot of questions that we need to answer, that if it's 2:00 on a Friday, you're getting a tank water heater, because otherwise you're going to pay so much to figure out how can we put a tankless in. And now it's after hours, and it needs 2 guys, and all this stuff to get done. So being proactive with water heaters is huge, because we have some customers with water heaters in basements. People think, a basement in SoCal? Where the hell's a basement in SoCal? Well, Bixby Knolls, it's quite a few, right?
Yeah.
So I'll get a call at 2:00 on a Friday when I'm getting all these other emergencies, and it's like, oh geez,
Is that when the emergencies come in? Is on Friday?
2:00 on a Friday? Yeah. So
okay.
we got a
couple
few
hours.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Before shit hits the fan. Yeah.
Got it.
But that it can happen on the weekend, right? And even you get lucky, and it's a Monday at 10 a.m. and it's like, all right, cool. But it just takes time. So with water heaters, be proactive. The average life of a water heater is about 15 years for like a pro grade water heater. You bought something good quality, brass parts, good quality materials. If you go to Home Depot and you get, like, say, a Rheem water heater, it's got the plastic drain port, it's got cheap, inner materials. I've replaced some that are 5 years old, and it's ridiculous because they saved maybe $400 getting that versus, and you got 1/3 the lifespan of it.
And so you're getting, for anyone listening, you're getting your water heaters at, I guess, a plumbing
A
house.
plumbing supply house, yeah. So we stock Bradford White. If you're going with a tank water heater, don't get anything other than Bradford White. I stock Bradford White in my shop in Signal Hill, and I stock the repair kits. So if your control valve goes out and your tenant's calling you, I've got no hot water. It's Friday. I got people coming over for a party tonight and then another party tomorrow. I don't, they're pissed. And that's the thing. When the tenant's pissed, then their friend or their partner is saying, well, legally, we need to have hot water.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
and that, right. So the great thing about Bradford White is they make sure at the supply houses and even just pre-built kits, we stock those, and they work for 40 or 50 gallon water heaters. And so whether you call about a 50 or 40 gallon, we're going to get it knocked out and taken care of. And we can get that done within 2 hours from the moment you call us to when we call you to say, hey, everything's set. Your tenant has hot water again, 2 hours. And I called Ream. I had someone who called us about a tenant with no hot water. I went out there, Home Depot, Ream water heater, and there's a big stop sign on the water heater. It says, stop. If you have an issue with this water heater, don't bring it back to Home Depot. Call this number. So I called the number. I wait on hold for a while, probably 20 minutes.
Wow.
And then someone finally answers the phone. I've got to register the water heater for the owner. What's the owner's name? What's their last name? What's their cell number? What's the property address? Get everything registered. And they say, okay, it is covered under warranty, which I already knew based off the age. They say, we're going to transfer you to the shipping department so you can let them know how, where to ship it to. Okay. Wait on hold another 5 or so minutes. Get to the shipping department. They say, all right, we can, we see this covered. What address do you want it to? I give them the address. They say, okay, we'll ship it to you for free, 2 to 4 business days. This is a Friday afternoon. So they're going to get it maybe Wednesday, maybe Thursday, or you could pay to expedite the shipping, $30, and you'll have it in 1 to 2 business days. Okay, so Monday or Tuesday, but they're still going to go the whole weekend without hot water. And sure enough, they got lucky. It showed up on Monday morning. So we were able to get it done Monday afternoon. But they still went the whole weekend without hot water. And to some people, that doesn't sound too bad. But my wife makes sure I know very clearly she did not marry a plumber to not have hot water. We have a tankless. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with them because anytime there's a power outage, you've got no hot water. And that only happens when I'm not home and my wife is, and she's ready to take a shower, and I get a call or a text, and she's like, what the I've got no hot water. What the hell? Come home and fix this right away. And I'm out with friends for the first time in 2 months. And, I just want to kick back and relax. And, I'm getting chewed out for something I can't control. Right. So my wife loves a hot shower. If she comes out of the shower and her skin's not glowing red, she didn't burn off that first layer. She's not clean. So that's her mindset. So, she appreciates a hot shower. So I can only imagine, because we're all people, if my wife was a tenant for a property and she didn't have hot water, she'd be on ChatGPT. How long before I can sue my landlord for not giving me hot water?
Yeah, no, it's tough.
It's just what people do now. And so, our job is obviously to fix the issue, but it's also to set you up for success, because we specialize in service and repair. We're not just here to repipe your house and never see you again. We're here to fix, whether it's repipe or not, in 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years, we're going to be here to take care of the issue again when something else goes wrong, right? So, yeah.
Jordan, tell us a little bit about, did you want to take over Dad's business? Because I guess when I knew your dad through through Tippers, the business networking group, I don't know that like he would bring you to the breakfast meetings
Sure.
where like where it was like a good passing of the baton. Like I
Right.
didn't see that happening. I just
Yeah.
he didn't come, you came, and then
Yeah.
I didn't realize you were his son at first, right?
Sure.
And so when did you realize you're like, all right, like dad wanted you to take over,
Yeah.
or you're like, hey, I should do this?
So it's an interesting story. Even getting into plumbing wasn't my first choice. Going to school, I was not a great student. I had terrible ADHD. I really struggled with just taking a test, But my biggest, my parents were truly or are truly amazing. They're still around. They're still great people. But my mom and dad just wanted me to do the best I could in school. So I was like, look, if I could at least get B's and C's, get through high school, like cool, I'll be happy. And I was very nerdy, back then, and still am. I love video games. I don't play nearly as much as I used to. Otherwise the business would be in terrible shape. But a couple of summers when I was, in Milliken, a couple of the summers, my dad said, "Hey, get out of the house. Like, come to work with me. I need help. Make some money." And I thought, oh, okay, more money, buy more video games. Why not, right? And so I'd go to work with him, and I'll admit, I was pretty useless when I first started. I mean, everyone is. You don't know what you don't know, but I didn't really have the drive. I wasn't like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. But I started working with him. I was learning, getting that hands-on experience, and getting paid, right? I'm getting paid to learn. I'm useless at I don't know channel locks from a screwdriver, and I'm getting paid to figure it out. You don't get paid to go to college, you pay them to teach you, right? But I'm getting paid to learn such a useful skill. And as AI, and maybe we'll get into that, as AI gets more and more prevalent, people are like, oh shoot, like I went to college for this job, and a robot, a computer just took it from me, But so I worked a couple summers with him, and then in my senior year of high school, my teacher said to me, hey Jordan, like what college do you want to apply to? I thought, oh God, me in college doesn't sound like a pretty picture. I'm gonna end up partying and drinking and wasting money. And so I went home. I said, hey, Dad, I think I want to work with you. And he said, my dad's very grounded, very, realistic kind of person. And he said, all right, but you need to work. You're not just riding along to sit there and not look pretty, because, I don't have the pretty face to, be the face of the company, but, you need to work. Like people are calling us for help, right? You don't become a police officer and someone is help me, help, and you're like, I don't feel like it, right? So he was very big on like you need to put in the work and try really hard if you want to work for me. And I said, all right, let's do it, because I really didn't have any other. I mean, it was the easy in, right? Dad'll hire me, why not?
Sure.
So I got into that, and then long story short, for that, what got me to really love plumbing was hearing because when I first started working for my dad, he had already had his business for 15 years. He started in 1995. I graduated in 2011 and have been working for him full time ever since. And I heard so many stories about how my dad saved the day on Christmas morning when everything stopped up and everything was flooding, and he came out and saved the day. And I would think back to, oh, I remember Christmas morning, we opened up our gifts, and then my dad left for an hour or two. And I'm distracted with my new toy, right? I'm happy. See you, Dad. Go have fun or go to work, whatever you're doing. I'm playing with my new Christmas toy. And he's back in a couple hours. Feels like 2 minutes to me, but he just saved Christmas for someone, right? When all your toys are backing up and overflowing and causing a mess, or you just can't use the bathroom and you've got a house full of people, that's an issue, right? And so hearing my dad, on weekends and late nights and holidays, and it didn't matter when, and all these people are saying how wonderful my dad is, it really was like, whoa, like that's like I don't think I was ever more proud of my dad than hearing those stories, right? So I kind of was like, I want to be the hero, right? I want to be the guy who saves the day and who saves Christmas and, you know, just a Tuesday afternoon, you know? And so I really started to appreciate and start to fall in love with plumbing because I'm providing a service to someone. I like to be that's something my mom really instilled in me was hold the door open for people, say please and thank you, be a gentleman, be polite, help people. If you see someone with a car broken down on the side of the road, help them push it out of the way, Like don't just sit there and record it or drive out, like be a person who cares, right? So I really started to like really take plumbing and just go 100% into it.
I'll end.
Yeah. But to answer your question about did I want to take over the business? Yes and no. We started having those talks. My dad was getting older. He was beat. His physically was just his body was just beat to heck. And one day he said to me, "Hey, I'm gonna start having you answer the phones and you go out and do the calls." Like, because we were small. It was just my dad and I and maybe one other guy. And so my dad was the one answering the phones, doing the calls, doing everything. So he's like, why don't you start answering the calls and helping people over the phone, and then you go out and do the jobs? I said, all right, let's do it, But I said on one condition, we get off of pen and paper because I'm not calling you every night at 8 o'clock at night and say, what do you have for 8 a.m. tomorrow? What about 10 a.m.? And what about Wednesday at 3 p.m.? And we're not doing that. So we started putting everything on Google Calendar, syncing our calendars and figuring out a way to make things a little more modern. And then that led to, seeing like, oh, like just that little change, like really helped a lot. And then my dad was like, hey, like now I kind of need to get out of the field. Like it hurts, to get up and down from my knees and crawl under houses and get out from, pretzel myself and cram myself up from under a sink. You're going to kind of do everything now. I said, all right. He said, or you can sell the business and go work for someone else. You're good at what you do. You show up every day. You're responsible. You're dedicated. Any company would love to have you. And I just thought to myself, I said, yeah, man, but almost 30 years. I think at this point of the conversation, we were 25 to 26 years into him starting the business. I thought, I don't want to throw all that away. This reputation you've built is huge. I mean, Primo is almost like a second last name to us, and I didn't want to just throw that away, and so I said, no, I want to take over and keep it going. I said, but I also want to grow it because I physically looked at my dad and said, your body's shot. You've had one shoulder surgery. You need another one. Both your knees are shot. You've got, horrible arthritis. Like, and some of those injuries were just from play, right? But some of them are the wear and tear from plumbing, and so I said, I want to grow the company because I don't want all that on me. But if you have even just a 2, 3, 4 person team, you can kind of alternate. I don't have the same guy doing the same jobs over and over and over again. Like we rotate and we kind of share the load and we work as a team. And my dad always talks about how he repipe homes by himself. I don't want to do that. I want to be home for dinner and not be dead tired. I go home and my wife wants to maybe go out, have dinner, take the dog for a walk, or, go out, do something fun, meet up with friends. And I don't want to be so exhausted that I just work and sleep. Right.
Jordan. So you brought up AI.
Yeah.
And on one of my previous shows, I talked about how white collar jobs, a lot of them are going to be in jeopardy, and,
sure.
and AI is going to, and I'm saying, hey, if you're a plumber, electrician, framer, drywaller, like there's certain jobs that are like totally protected from AI.
Yeah.
Because there's no way AI is going to get underneath your sink to change out the P-trap.
Yeah.
To change out. So like, that's got to make you feel like you took this gamble, right? And back then, the word AI wasn't even a thing.
Right. Oh,
We had no idea what it was going to do. And now looking back, it was probably the smartest thing you could have done.
Yeah.
Right. and then you're growing the business, and
Right.
you had a grand opening, and I was,
Yeah.
I went to go support you.
Absolutely.
It was cool to see your dad, your parents, and then meet all the employees and actually see you do what you told your dad you were going to do. So I'm sure he's very proud.
Absolutely.
How does that make you feel? Like, man, dude, I'm glad that AI can't do plumbing.
I got really lucky. I mean, like I said, the only reason I picked plumbing was the easy end, right? And actually plumbing used to be hard to get into. You had to know somebody who kind of knew your work ethic and your personality. So usually a family member, and they'd say, all right, yeah, we'll bring the cousin in, or we'll bring the nephew in, or we'll bring the brother or son in, But now, I mean, we've pushed the technology field for so long. Computers and science and just the tech industry just exploded, that I think the education system forgot about the trades. When I was at Milliken and graduated in 2011, the only hands-on shop that was left was auto tech. And even then it was like, it was kind of pathetic. It just was very, it wasn't very broad, or it didn't really dive in deep to it much. It was like, take out a couple pistons and put them back in, and then take a test on how the gearing works. And it just, it didn't seem very, helpful, right? It did, like, I kind of thought like, oh, I might want to go into the automotive industry. And then I was like, oh, this is kind of, I don't know, like my dad's a better teacher for plumbing than my teacher for the automotive class. So, I truly lucked out. I mean, I went from getting kicked out of 6th grade to valedictorian at my trade school. It just, when you find that thing you love, it just worked out, But yeah, I mean, so many people. I mean, I was listening to your episode, the previous episode with Brandon, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, Juan's worried about realtors losing their jobs. I was like, you're kidding me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to deal with AI to buy a home. I want to, like, I appreciate coming to your guys' office and talking to someone like Phoebe and saying like, hey, here's what we have financially. Like, where are we at? What can we do with it? Could I ask AI that? Yeah, maybe, probably, right?
You could. Yeah.
But someone with experience and being able to have that conversation with it, I mean, I value that, right? So, I don't know, but AI is definitely, it's already taking jobs, right? I mean, there's already machines flipping burgers at McDonald's, and people are like, oh, I can't believe they took jobs. It's like, but it's so simple. You're flipping a burger, right? Why should you get minimum wage for something that literally a robot can do?
Yeah. I think what's going to happen is, I think that your dad early on said, hey, you could sell your plumbing business. Right. I think people that are in the corporate world who get laid off, and again, not everyone gets laid off.
Sure.
But let's just say they keep 20% of the staff, because AI could do the other 80%. Yeah. So that is going to happen. And so then you got these people that are educated. They're going to read the room like, okay, I probably shouldn't go back into a corporate type job. Right. Maybe I'll buy, because there's two things. You could either start your own business, and like your dad did, and it took 30 years to get it going, or you, well, let me just buy an existing business, right? And then something like yours comes up to play. Not that you ever want to sell it, but I'm just letting you know that those types of businesses, I believe there's going to be a bigger pool of buyers. Yeah. These are just kind of like a domino effect of what's happening. And I'm not making it up. I do read up on some of what's happening, and it's just kind of an interesting thing. But I think that you're in a really good place.
Yeah. PE groups are buying up trade companies like crazy right now. I mean, it's always kind of been like that, but it's definitely taking off, because
what do you mean PE groups?
Like private equity. Got it. Right. Okay. So they're like, hey, I've got 2 business partners and we want to buy a plumbing company. one that's successful, that's already practically printing money. They've got all the processes in place. That's the hardest thing that I'm working on right now, is getting processes in place for everything. And like you said, it's taken us 30 years to really get going. Some companies have sold for tens of millions in 6 years. A good friend of mine, Victor Rancourt, sold the company Absolute Airflow for a lot of money, and he started it from absolutely absolutely nothing to tens of millions in 6 years.
Yeah.
But he knew, when he started his business, I mean, he knew what he was doing, but he didn't. It was his first time too, but he had worked at really successful companies and knew the direction he wanted to go. So yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you buy a company like that, right?
Right. Jordan, I'm going to give you the final say.
Yeah.
So let us know how someone could get a hold of the company if they have, either if they want to do the kind of the inspection, which I highly recommend that people
100%.
do, because when we sell a building and there's a lot of plumbing issues, and I'm representing the buyer, we're going to get massive credits or price reductions on behalf of our buyer.
Oh yeah.
If I'm representing the seller, then I'm negotiating because of well, look at all the bad things that.
Right.
So that is money being thrown away. Like if there's not a problem, there's no negotiations to take place. But if there's a problem, there's going to be further negotiations after we've agreed on the contract. So I'll give you the final say and let us know how someone could get a hold of you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you can follow me on Instagram. Personally, I'm Jordan the Primo Plumber, or our company page, Primo Plumbing and Heating, and on Facebook. But if you want to call me, I'll give you my cell, 562-706-7069. Sounds like a fake number, but it's not. It's the number my wife calls me at. And then our business number, if you truly want to set up an appointment or talk to me, because I'm the office lady, as pretty as I am, 562-429-1221. You can call us. If you just ask for Jordan, ask for Jordan. I'll give you a call back. Just give him a brief description of kind of what you're looking for. I'll call you back right away and just help you out. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to charge you to consult over the phone. I'm truly always happy to answer questions and just help you. I truly love helping people. So any way I can, even other plumbing companies. I even have small guys coming up to me now, which is mind blowing, because I feel like I'm still a small guy. But I have people who just started their company reaching out to me and saying hey, how did you do this, or how do you do that? And we're here to be better, right? Our slogan is others may be good, we're Primo. And I guess just a quick thing on our name, a lot of people get confused. Our family's Italian, and in Italian, Primo means top notch, top quality. You want a Primo steak. The surfers are talking about how primo the waves are, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of people think oh, there's two cousins who own the company together, because in Spanish primo means cousin, right?
Yeah.
But we treat people like family, absolutely. And we're very big on top-notch quality. I mean, we pay for our guys to go to trade school, or have paid for them to go and graduate. And I that's what I did. I had a fantastic experience with an absolutely incredible teacher at the PHCC. And now I knew I need to send my guys to this school so they could learn as much as they can and be the best they can. So yeah, I mean, call me, text me. You can email me, jordan@primoplumbing.net. Any questions you guys have, hit me up. Let me know.
Make sure you let them know that you heard them here on the Own More Doors podcast. Jordan, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.